Okay. Once again, the Vikings made a signing. Xavier Woods, safety, coming in here for a couple million. Great signing. I mean, you know, all the shit that gets thrown at the Vikings, they have just fucking nailed this free agency period, in my opinion. Um, it's clear that their focus coming into this was, you know, priority number one for free agency is defense, defense, defense. And, like, I think they've done a fantastic job to this point. You get Tomlinson in here, fix the middle of that defensive line. They bring in Weatherly to help with the pass rush, edge pass rush. They bring in Patrick Peterson to, for the secondary. Now they bring in Woods. They brought in Mackenzie Alexander. We'll see if that vigil is anything. And then, of course, all the returning guys, Hunter and Barr and Kendrick's back for the full season, hopefully. Hopefully a little better injury luck from some of our young corners. Like, this defense is fucking stacked right now. I mean, they're gonna have one of the all-time like one season turnarounds. Like when Zimmer came in here the first time, the first year, he inherited just a garbage defense, and he kind of made it okay. I think they're gonna go from this. This is gonna make that improvement year to year look just like nothing we've ever seen around here. I can't think of one where we've gone from like rock bottom to. I mean, this is the top 10 defense, in my opinion, at least. With injury luck, I mean, there's no guarantees, but typically that stuff usually is not a 2 year in a row thing. Usually, if you're getting killed by the injury bug, it doesn't hit you twice in a row. But like, I think this is a great sign. Like, these, Woods is still pretty young. Nice fit. He's he's got a bit of ball hawk in him. And we've seen, safeties. You pair them with Harrison Smith, they're always gonna be better. I don't think Anthony Harris is gonna play as good this year away from Harrison Smith. We saw that Sendejo left here and he wasn't as good. I think they've done a fantastic job. But of course, I basically have to do this every video. I have to talk about the Vikings fans whining because every one of these really good moves that they've made the last couple weeks has been met with, "Why the fuck aren't they signing an offensive lineman? Duh, they're just gonna let Cousins get killed." Duh. I mean, I'm so done with this. I'm so done with this. It's almost like deliberate idiocy on the part of Vikings fans, and I use that in quotes because I don't think some of these people are fans. And obviously the media, who are supposed to know better. Like, I've been saying this, day after day. They're still going to sign at least one lineman, even with everything with all these signings they've made over the last couple weeks. They still have some money, and they haven't done anything yet with Harrison Smith extension, or Hunter extension, or Kirk extension. They haven't had to yet. And maybe they won't because they won't have to. I still think it's almost certain they're going to do something with Harrison Smith because I don't think they're going to let him go into a lame duck year. But I mean, they've got a lot of cap room, and they're going to use it because they always use it. And as far as signing guys on defense, there ain't much left. Like, they don't really have much. Even if they were going to sign somebody else, they're not. They've signed 3 guys in the secondary. They've signed a couple linemen. They've signed a linebacker. Maybe they'll sign someone else on the defensive line. I saw Geno Atkins mentioned as a possibility. Other than that, I really would be shocked if they signed any more veterans in the secondary. So, what are they going to do with that remaining money? It's going to the offensive side of the ball, and they still might sign a wide receiver too. There's a possibility of that. But they're still going to sign a lineman, It's not going to appease the Chicken Little people who are convinced that who are convinced that Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer and everyone are just deliberately ignoring the offensive line, which they're not. They just haven't signed. Their priority clearly coming into free agency here was the defense, which it probably should be, because did you fucking see the defense last year? This was at least probably a 10-win team if we had anything resembling a competent defense. And now we do have something resembling a competent defense, unless we get hit with the injury bug again. And more than just competent. I think they're going to be very good. So their focus now really is going to be very much on the offense. I mean, they still got, I think, 10 draft picks. Now they did, of course, trade for Cole, who is going to be in the mix somewhere on the line, but they're going to be able to focus almost exclusively on offense in the draft. And I don't think they're going to draft, they'll probably end up with more than 10 picks because it's Rick and he always wheels and deals, but let's say 10 for now. They're not going to draft 10 offensive players. They'll draft, but they can maybe draft 7. I mean, there's not a whole lot of obvious spots they're going to draft, defense in the draft. Now, best player available. If there's someone's there who you like, you're going to take him. If there's a cornerback somewhere, they're going to take him. They're going to take more, defensive linemen. They might take a linebacker. They're probably going to draft a safety at some point. But, although, I mean, if Woods pans out, he's young enough. You could have him and Smith back there for a while. So maybe that would kind of negate that as a big need. But they're going to draft guys for offense, I think, primarily. I would be shocked if they came out of the draft and took, equal defense and offense, or majority defense, because frankly they're not going to have the roster spots for a lot of defensive draft picks. Because I mean, hell, you could look at their current draft or their current depth chart on defense. They probably got that thing mostly full already, because we've got we had obviously a huge draft class last year. They're going to presumably want to keep a lot of those guys around. We've got a lot of new starters and returning starters. There ain't going to be much left, but we do have a lot of spots still on the offensive line. We still got at least one, maybe 2 wide receiver spots. We maybe go for another tight end. I wouldn't be completely shocked if they drafted a running back at some point, because at some point you'll want somebody who isn't Madison, because you're not going to pay. When Madison's rookie contract is up, you're not going to pay him, I would assume. And maybe they'll draft a young quarterback, but I got my fingers crossed on quarterback. Sean Mannion's still not signed, so maybe they're not going to re-sign him. I've had my hopes set on any sort of change at backup quarterback, but I think the Vikings have just done a fantastic job. And because what was the narrative that these same people whining now were whining about 2 weeks ago? We're not going to be able to do anything in free agency, and they weren't blaming the cap. That was maybe part of it, but they're blaming the Kirk contract because, he's killed our cap and we're not going to be able to do anything. Look at everything they've been able to do. And the only thing, they cut Reef, and they cut a couple other players, but they cut a couple other players who you knew they were going to cut anyway, like Rudolph. And fuck, Rudolph might not even be able to play now. He's got a failed physical going on, but they obviously have a plan for replacing Reef, whether that's moving Cleveland over, whether that's maybe swapping O'Neal over there, or drafting somebody. And when pick 14 comes up, assuming they pick at 14, there might be a nice left tackle sitting there, and if I wouldn't be a bit surprised they draft somebody like that right there. But I mean, they've done a fantastic job getting the money to do all this, and they haven't had to do a couple of the obvious things that everyone, including myself, thought they probably had to do to get this money. I thought for sure Harrison Smith was going to get an extension. I thought for sure they would maybe try to do something with Hunter to extend him but lower his cap hit. And I still think that they're going to do something with Kirk. I mean, it might not at this point. I don't think there's going to be any urgency to do anything with Kirk and an extension like for this off season. I don't think there's any incentive because they're going to have enough money to sign their draft picks. They're still going to have money to pick a couple more guys up. Free agency, maybe after the draft, there'll be some deals to be had. And there could always be a trade that comes out of nowhere, but they're going to be in position to pretty much do whatever they want or whatever their plan is for the rest of free agents here, without even having to, do a Kirk extension or whatever. That'll be like maybe during the season or maybe next off season thing. Because I've said it a trillion times and I'll keep saying it, he ain't playing at that cap hit in 2022. No one's ever expected him to, except for all the Chicken Little people in the fan base who've, nothing would have made these people happier than if we had to sit out the last 2 weeks of free agency, doing nothing, having our roster further depleted, and then they could turn around and say, see, it's because of Kirk, he killed the cap. These people actually wanted this to happen, but it didn't happen because it was never going to happen. And they've done better than I thought they would as far as getting cap space. I didn't think they were going to make, I thought at most maybe they would make one kind of significant signing, but Tomlinson and Peterson, that's 2 significant signings. Some of these other ones are more like value signings, and there's still guys out there. There's still guys out there that they can get, including some of the former Vikings I've mentioned before, who you could bring back on cheap deals, and that may be, at some point you're not going to keep signing a bunch of guys on cheap deals now because you want to have, some openings for the draft. I mean, you don't want to have your whole damn roster filled up, but I love what they've done. I think they're going to do primarily an offensive focused draft, and with the moves they've already made, man, if they have another really good draft class like they did last year where they really did a good job, fuck, this is a good team. They're going to be a really good team next year. And I don't know if that's going to infuriate some of these people in the fan base or excite them, but you know where I stand. I'm loving what they're doing. I have a lot of optimism. Almost every move they make just increases my optimism for the 2021 Vikings. I think this is, injuries can happen, things can happen, weird things happen, a fucking pandemic happened the last time, but man, this is already looking like not just a return to the playoffs, but I think a return to deep playoff run potentially, if the NFL allows it. Of course, the NFL's rigged, and we've learned that now. But hey, maybe they'll let us have our day in the sun.